Welcome to the Design Defect. I am Steve Young, and I want to give you my impressions on this really cool prototype that just got released to the public of the original Rayman developed for the Super Nintendo. And now there's not much here. I've only recorded like 2 minutes of footage, and then I looped it over. It's just a short little level. I try to show you all the animations and stuff that Rayman has and everything else in the game. There are a lot of limitations here. Overall, I think this is super cool that this came out. This was sort of hinted at even a couple weeks before we found out about Star Fox 2 coming out. And if you've been following our channel for any amount of time, you know I'm pretty excited about Star Fox 2. And so here I decided to download the ROM for the Super Nintendo Rayman that one of the developers was just posting up on Dropbox, I believe. Here it is. It's pretty cool, honestly. It looks pretty impressive. There's some neat parallax and stuff going on. I think, man, I mean, for an early prototype, this game looks incredible, especially for a Super Nintendo game. This definitely would have been one of the better looking ones. So there was a ton of potential here. The history of this game, Rayman the franchise, which, my gosh, it's been going on forever now. A lot of people don't even remember this as a 2D platformer. It was originally developed by a smaller team. I believe Michael Ansel was the game's lead designer. I think he actually did he front-loaded all the work initially, and then they were going to make it for the Super Nintendo CD. And obviously that fell through, and so they were reevaluating their options when they realized that wasn't going to work, and they thought that the Jaguar was the best system for them to develop the original game that we all know and love and have played on various platforms today. Shortly after the Jaguar version came out, which I am going to loop to here in just a second, that's when they decided to port it to every console known to man. PlayStation, Saturn, I think there was PC ports, and they even had a 32X and 3DO version announced at one point, though obviously those went nowhere. But still some pretty cool insight to this really awesome platformer, way ahead of its time. And so here, why don't we skip ahead to some Jaguar footage here. Actually, you know, I even wanted to include the cheesy little Jaguar intro for you guys, because you might also be aware I am kind of a Jaguar fan, so there you go. Man, I love this intro. I know it's silly. Like I love all my consoles, and I have a lot of them. But Jaguar holds a soft spot in my heart for some reason. Maybe it's because it got bashed on so much. This was one of the better games released for the system, and you know, I'm glad that for whatever reason they decided to you know, back in the day, go ahead and develop this initially for the Jaguar, because it added a lot of life to this short-lived Atari console. But in any case, so you might notice the music is not quite as cool or catchy as the PlayStation version, but the visuals are pretty much spot on. There's a lot going on here. I think the PlayStation version also had an animated intro. Here's the overworld screen and stuff like that. This is being emulated, by the way. That's why you saw that glitch there on the right side. But so, yeah, just talking a little bit more about Rayman and just as a franchise. I remember when this game first came out, and I got it for the Atari Jaguar initially, just because I'd never seen a game this colorful before. I think that was what really sold me on it, was just the amount of color on screen. Blew my mind. And I think early on in development, when they were still toying around with the Super Nintendo CD version, they finally decided to hire some animators from some cartoon company, and the visuals took a significant leap. And I assume, I'm not sure, but I assume the prototype that we were looking at for the Super Nintendo, that was with the artists that they had hired, and not the original programmer art. Because, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily call myself an artist or a programmer, but I do my own art for my own games, and yeah, it does not look this good. But that being said, I love the fact that this that the developer just went out of his way to go ahead and upload this random piece of video game history. And you know, I've talked a lot about game preservation and things like that, and it's not often that we get to experience a piece of video game history that a lot of us never even knew existed. And you can look at the example of this, not the game that I'm currently displaying here, the Jaguar version, which is available and on multiple platforms, but you can look at the example of the Super Nintendo Rayman game and kind of say, like, well, what's the big deal? Because it's not even a game. There's not even really any gameplay in it. But I think it goes a long way in just showing the history of where video games have been, where they're going, and what we can learn, you know, as developers, and even as just game players in general. And you know, we got from that Super Nintendo version, we got one of the most interesting, long-standing franchises in video game history. It's not quite up there with Mario, but it's up there. You know, Rayman has been around. You know, and if we're really digging deep, then you know, we can say, like, if you look at the Minions movies and the Despicable Me franchise, I guess before Minions even, Rayman spawned the Raving Rabbids games, and those were before Minions, and the Minions are Raving Rabbids. There is no way that the people that worked on that movie did not see the Raving Rabbids and were not just super impressed with that. So, yeah, for me, I just love the fact that we get to see this awesome piece of history. And you know, I've got a bunch of interesting prototypes and stuff that I've done for work and things like that, and at some point, if the time is ever right, I would love to release them. They're not really things I can talk about here, but it's you know, and also knowing a lot of weird things that I know have gone on in the industry, sort of behind the scenes, as far as AAA titles and things like that. And there's some cool stuff that I think fans would like to learn about and could really get into. And on that note too, I know I think Rayman on the PlayStation, the same version I'm playing here, but for the PlayStation, I think that version of the game, and maybe some others, but I don't think that the Jaguar had this. If you beat the game, I think you had to maybe unlock everything. You would, sorry, when I say unlock everything, I think you had to like earn all the lums, which are those trash cans and stuff you saw me, or cages you saw me hitting. I think then at that point you would unlock a prototype for Rayman 2 that you could just play on your PlayStation, which was super cool. Now, and that Rayman 2 was super special. I don't have footage of that because, frankly, I don't have the time to unlock everything in the game and show that to you guys. But you can find that on YouTube if you search around. In any case, yeah, they show you get to play a Rayman 2 prototype that was still 2D like this, and they were doing some really cool stuff, sort of like in Mutant Muds, and I know that developer has worked on some other games where you jump into the background plane and do some platforming there. It was 2D, very almost exactly like this, but there were some really cool elements that were not in this Rayman game that I thought were super cool. So check that out, and that's the kind of thing that I think is super cool. Just seeing where the industry has been, and kind of what they learned, why did they, I mean, we know why they canceled like the 32X and the 3DO versions of Rayman. Why didn't they cancel the Jaguar version though? And to that end, and where did this come from? Well, now we know Rayman was originally developed without digging it up too much. Now we know that it was originally planned for Super Nintendo CD. Which is another cool piece of hardware that some team actually got working recently. There's one lone Super Nintendo CD out there that I think it actually says the words Nintendo and PlayStation, or Nintendo. Is it Nintendo PlayStation? It says Nintendo and Sony somewhere on there, like on the circuit board or something. That both those names are together. There's a prototype that exists, and people have even made software to run on it since this was discovered. So anyway, I'm just showing you a bunch of random gameplay of Atari Jaguar Rayman because the prototype is not super interesting, but honestly, I recommend anyone take a look at it. It's cool to see things like that and get excited about it, I think. And I think as an industry, we are starting to learn the importance of game preservation, and I think that's why we got Star Fox 2, because Nintendo was like, well, why not? The game was done. You got a bunch of Super Nintendo fanboys out there. They're going to go crazy for this, and they were right. They made the right decision to release that. In any case, yeah, I don't know. This is kind of me rambling, less impressions, I suppose, and just more me expressing my excitement for just random little prototypes and stuff like this that have and full games in the case of Star Fox 2 that have started surfacing recently. I hope this jumpstarts other developers to start doing the same thing, start going back into their archives. What if Bungie randomly decided to show us a version of the original Halo they were working on? And I don't mean the one that we all know for the Mac. I mean like back when it was an RTS. What if we got that? I know we got Halo Wars, but I'm saying go back to StarCraft level sprites and stuff like that. That would just be awesome. That would blow my mind. Anyway, so that's pretty much all I got. I wanted to show you just if you haven't played the original Rayman, I highly recommend it. It is available on just about everything. It to this day is still one of my favorite platformers, 2D of all time. A lot of it is because of the graphics. The gameplay is still very strong though. It's super hard. I don't think I beat this back in the day. I know I tried, and I know I got really far. I think I got to the last world, but I don't think I beat this, and that's why I'm only on, I don't know, I guess technically this is the second world? I don't know. Maybe, yeah, either way, it's available on the PlayStation Store. I think you can download it as a PS1 classic, at least on the PS3. You can just buy this game for just about anything, though. It's out there if you want to play. If you like platformers, check out this game. I don't want to tell you exactly how I got the ROM, even though it's easy to find the ROM for the Rayman prototype. Like I said, if you just Google it, it's there. But honestly, it's pretty cool. Watching me play it, it's still not quite the same as playing it yourself, and maybe you'll find some other weird animations that I didn't see. I love the charge up one that he does. You see me doing it here, but he had like that sort of Super Saiyan charge up that I thought was really cool, where he turned all electric. Okay, now I'm really done. Enough of me rambling. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll have something else coming up next week. See you next time.